Today we will see class 12 Sociology chapter 6 The Challenges of Cultural Diversity. Different kinds of social institution ranging from the family to the market can bring people together, create strong collective identities and strengthen the social cohesion as you learnt in chapter 3 and 4. But on the other hand, as chapter 4 and 6 showed, the very same institution can also be sources of inequality and exclusion. In this chapter, you will learn about some of the tensions and difficulties associated with cultural diversity. What precisely does cultural diversity mean, and why is it seen as a challenge? The term diversity emphasizes differences rather than the inequalities. When we say that India is a nation of great cultural diversity, we mean that there are many different types of social groups and communities living here. These are communities defined by cultural markers such as language, religion, sect, race, or caste. When these diverse communities are also part of larger entity like a nation, then difficulties may be created by competition or conflict between them. This is why cultural diversity can present tough challenges. The difficulties arises from the fact that cultural identities are very powerful. They can arouse intense possessions and are often able to mobilize the large numbers of people. Sometimes cultural differences are accompanied by economic and social inequalities, and this further complicates things. Measures to address them, inequalities or injustice suffered by one community can provoke opposition from other communities. The situation is made worse when scarce resources like water, river waters, jobs or government funds have to be shared. If you read the newspaper regularly or watch the news on television, you may often have had the depressing feeling that India has no future. There seem to be so many diverse forces hard at work tearing apart the unity and the integrity of our country. Communal riots, demands of regional autonomy, caste wars. You might have even felt upset that large section of our population are not being patriotic and don't seem to feel as intensely for India as you and your classmates do. But if you look at any book dealing with the history of modern India or books dealing specifically with issues like communism or regionism, in bracket for example Ross 1974, you will realize that these problems are not new ones. Almost all the major diverse problems of today have been there ever since independence or even earlier. But in spite of them, India has not only survived as a nation but is a stronger nation state today. As you proper to read on, remember that this chapter deals with difficult issues for which there are no easy answers, but some answers are better than others, and it is our duty as citizens to try our utmost to produce the best answers that are possible within the limitations of our historical and social context. Remember also that given the immense challenges presented by a vast and extremely diverse collection of the peoples and cultures, India has on the whole done fairly well compared to the most other nations. On the other hand, we also have some significant shortcomings. There is a lot of room for improvement and much work needs to be done in order to face the challenges of future. 6.1 Cultural Communities and the Nation State. Before discussing the major challenges that diversity poses in India, issues such as regionalism, communism, and casteism, we need to understand the relationship between nation states and cultural communities. Why is it so important for people to belong to communities based on the cultural identities like caste, ethnic group, religion or religion? Why is so much passion aroused when there is perceived threat, insult or injustice to one's community? Why do these passions pose problems for the nation state? The importance of community identity. Every human being needs a sense of stable identity to operate in this world. Questions like who am I? How am I different from others? How do others understand and comprehend me? What goals and appreciation should I have? Constantly crop up in our life right from childhood. We are able to answer many of these questions because of the way in which we are socialized or taught now how to live in society by our immediate families or our community in various senses. In bracket, recall the discussion of the socialization in your class 11 textbooks. The socialization process involves a continuous dialogue, negotiation, and even struggle against significant others. In bracket, those directly involved in our lives, like our parents, family, kin group, and our community. Our community provides us the language in bracket our mother tongue and the cultural values through which we comprehend the world. It also anchors our self identity. Community identity is based on birth and belonging rather than on some form of acquired qualifications or accomplishment. It is what we are rather than what we have become. We won't have to do anything to be born into a community. In fact, no one has any choices about which family or community or country they are born into. These kinds of identities are called ascriptive. Ascriptive, that is, they are determined by the accidents of birth and do not involve any choices on the part of the individuals concerned. It is an odd fact of social life that people feel a deep sense of security and satisfaction in belonging to communities in which their membership is entirely accidental. We often identify so strongly with the communities we have done nothing to deserve, passed no exam, demonstrated no skill or competence. This is very unlike belonging to, say, a profession or team. Doctors or architects have to pass exams and demonstrate their competence. Even in sports, a certain level of skill and performance are a necessary a precondition for the membership in a team. But our membership in our families or religious or regional communities is without preconditions, and yet it is total. In fact, most ascriptive identities are very hard to shake off. Even if we choose to disown them, others may continue to identify as by those very markers of belonging. Perhaps it is because of this accidental, unconditional, and yet almost inescapable belonging that we can often be so emotionally attached to our community identity. Expanding and overlapping circles of community ties, family, kinship, caste, ethnicity, language, religion, or region give the meaning to our world and give us a sense of identity of who we are. That is why people often react emotionally or even violently whenever there is a perceived threat to their community identity. Activity 6.1. To get a clearer understanding of the expanding circles of community ties which shape our sense of identity, you can do a small survey designed as a game. Interview your school mates or other friends. Each interview gets 4 chances to answer each of 2 questions. Who am I and who do others think I am? But the answer must be a single word or a short phrase. They can't include any names. In bracket, your own or your parents or guardian names. Can't include your class or school, etc. The interviews must be done singly and in private. That is, other potential interviewers should not be able to hear what is said. Each person should only be interviewed once. That is, different interviewers can't interview the same person. You can record the answer and analyze them later. Which types of identities predominated? What was the most common first choice? Which was often the last choice? Were there any patterns to the answers? Did the answer for who am I differ greatly, somewhat, or not at all from answer to who do others think I am? A second features of ascriptive identities and community feeling is that they are universal. Everyone has a motherland, mother tongue, a family, or a faith. This may not necessarily be strictly true of every individual, but it is true in a general sense, and we are all equally committed and loyal to our respective identities. Once again, it is possible to come across people who may not be particularly committed to one or other aspects of their identity, but the possibilities of this commitment is potentially available to most people. Because of these conflicts that involve our communities, whether of nation, language, religion, caste, or region, are very hard to deal with. Each side in the conflict thinks of the other sides as a hated enemy, and there is a tendency to exaggerate the virtues of the one's own side as well as the vices of other side. Thus, when two nations are at war, patriots in each nation see the other as the enemy aggressor. Each side believes that God and the truth are on their sides. In the heat of the moment, it is very hard for the people on either side to see that they are constructing matching but reserved mirror images of each other. It is a social fact that no country or a group ever mobilizes its members to struggle for untruth, injustice, or inequality. Everyone is always fighting for truth, justice, equalities. This does not mean that both sides are right in every conflict or that there is no right or wrong, no truth. Sometimes both sides are indeed equally wrong or right. At other times, history may judge one side to be the aggressor and the other to be the victim. But this can only happen long after the heat of the conflict has cooled down. Some notion of mutually agreed upon the truth is very hard to establish in situation of identity conflict. It usually takes decades, sometimes centuries, for one side to accept that it was wrong. See the box 6.1. Thank you. Sharing is caring. Comment your thoughts. Subscribe for more knowledge.